something that we talk often about at Fusion is adding to your database, expanding your database, being in your community, and being the professional that you would hire. All of the individuals on this stage represent and embody two critical fundamentals that we have here at Fusion Growth Partners. The first being, we believe that you should stack the deck to ensure success in our efforts. And also that we believe you need to function as the professional that you would hire. So, as we dive into this, I really want to dig into the fact that we are always driving on this. What are some of the challenges that you had early on with Fusion, and how did you find resilience and the ability to overcome those challenges when growing the database? It's something we see often where people come in and we press in these map meetings, and you guys are the ones that have always had fairly stable growth. Can any of you share anything about that?
I can, yeah.
Leanne.
Yeah. In fact, my coach brought it to my attention this morning. We've moved a few times, and in so doing, my sphere kind of changes naturally. And when we moved to this last appointment, I was like, I have all their numbers, I have all their emails, I have all their addresses. Do I add them? And she's like, yeah. And my team leader, not team leader, I shouldn't call him that, we'll say the manager of our brokerage said, yeah, Leanne, you're crazy if you don't. So I did it, but I was so hesitant because I thought, okay, how is Fusion going to be touching these people in a manner that is me, and then what if it doesn't come across as authentic? And I have not had any pushback, and I say that I had one person out of like 300 that I added to my database say, I just don't think I want you to send me that stuff. I was like, cool, no problem. But goodness, I'm glad that I trusted Fusion enough to give quality touches that are valuable to my sphere and meaningful in an authentic manner.
How do you guys go about meeting new people when you feel you've exhausted all options?
When I come into Fusion first, I looked at that as an opportunity. I've been in real estate since 2000. This is an opportunity for me to reset. I had, as many people have, is about 4,000 or 5,000 people in your database. I said to myself, that is not coming into Fusion because I don't have the list of relationships within that I wanted. So I said, I'm going to start off brand new, and I was in the community that I live in. I've only been there for 2 or 3 years, and I said, I'm going to get into this community, meet some people, and build this. And I went through Groundbreaker. But I meet the people and do it through sponsorships and events. It's one of the big things. And I really got involved in the community as well. And that's really been my success is with being involved in those communities, those events. When I'm sponsoring those events, I'm involved. I make sure with the organizer I want to be at the banquets. I want to be able to offer a prize, which means I'm going to collect all of their information. I'm collecting their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, their email addresses. That is what they have to do to enter. I get up at the microphone and I hold up the card that I have. Thank you very much, Maddie, that you put together for me with the QR code on it. And I tell them I'm going to be doing the draw in 20 minutes. And if you don't enter, you don't win. And I said that I want you to know as well, full disclosure, after you enter, I will contact you one time. And if you do not want me to contact you after that, I will not. I'll remove you from the database. Hardly anybody gets me to remove them, but I'll go through that. We'll give the prize, but after the event is when it's the most important thing. I call everybody. And then I send that list all over to Fusion. I say, Maddie, here's 250 verified contacts I want put in my database. So in 2 years, I've got started from ground zero. I just had an email from Fusion today. I have 729 emails going out. So,
let's go. All right. This is something we hear often, so I'd like somebody else to share their story. It's something we hear early on, and I know there are some new partners here. We have some partners that have been with us for almost a decade. Almost everybody in this room has had this challenge at one point or another. So somebody else on the panel, share how you overcame that. Len.
Well, if you look at everybody in the room, and especially here, you'll see that there's some younger people, there's some older people. I'm 60 years old. I've been doing it for 32 years. I had a successful business. I used the CRM from a different company, but I wasn't happy with the way things were going. And I would add all the time people into my sphere of influence. Same as you. I had about 5,000 people in my database. But that particular program, I still had to do all the other stuff sent out. I had to still send out the emails, still send out the letters and all the other different things. So when my PE, we went through it, and I said, okay, I'll give you this many. He goes, you got to do 5 a week into your SOI. The next week, he goes, you added 12. I go, yep, I banked 7. We're good. And I just kept doing it. And then it became more of a, let's see how many I can do. And I've figured it out that, well, put it this way. There's been 3 or 4 gentlemen that talked today, and they talked about their struggles in the past. And a few more of you are probably in the same thing as I am. The system works if you work it. Anyone who's in any type of anonymous program will tell you if you work it, it works. I sometimes think that we should have a Realtors Anonymous. Think about it. In the basement of a church, there's going to be a bunch of people. Hi, I'm Lenny File. I'm a realtor. Hi, Lenny. Because we're afraid to let people know that we're realtors. Have cards on you, whoever you're. I was at just the other day getting this suit tailored, and I'm talking to the gentleman. He goes, what do you do for a living? I'm a realtor. What do you do for a living other than this? He goes, oh, I have a termite company. Here's my card. Here's my card. I went back to the office. I immediately put him in. I sent out a thank you card for his service, and that email went out I didn't have to do anything, from Fusion, and he's already referred me a lead. It works.
There we go.
If you work it.
There we go. Greg?
Let me just make a quick comment. Caleb Kuntz, who's my PE, has done a great job of helping me continue to build my sphere of influence over the years. Recently, when I've stumbled a little bit because I'm very careful about who I add, and perhaps I'm too conservative because for all these anonymous reasons of I don't want to offend somebody or hurt their feelings, because I want to make sure our relationship it has integrity, that I'm not taking advantage of the fact that we know each other through church or something else. What Caleb has helped me understand is I can first add a person into my database and begin to do some gentle marketing with them before turning them into a full sphere of influence marketing campaign. That's made it a little easier for me to sort of dip my toe in the water, begin to track people and names where I can pick up a business card. Ultimately, before I'm going to do full marketing, I will ask your permission. Would it be okay if I add you to my mailing list? I'd love to stay in touch with you and keep you updated on all things real estate.
Awesome. Jermaine, did you have anything on that?
Oh, yes. Am I going? Okay,
Yep.
yeah. There's 3 things I do. I had a mentor back in the day. He wasn't even in real estate. He flipped houses. He gave me the money from first flip. But he would go to lunch with 5 people every week, at least 5 to 7 people a week. So I kind of incorporated that. I go to lunch with 2 or 3 people a week. And then I do a lot of client parties for my business. I do one probably every other month to give me a reason to call, text, email, and then hopefully see them. But I tell them to invite their friends and family too, so I can get new people to the event. And then, like you said, email everything, and I add them to the database, and then try to take them to lunch. Third thing was me and my coach started talking, and he told me the numbers that every 100 people you add to your database, about 15 people is going to buy or sell that year. And say you get 10 of them. That's pretty good. So I started looking at every 100 people is 10 more transactions a year. At least once a month now, I start going to a networking event. And I'll pick out about 2 or 3 people, because you meet a lot of people, like a speed thing, networking, but you get the card, you misplace it, you forget it. So I pick 2 or 3 people, and I make sure I call them that following week and get to know them, see how I can help them with their business or whatever I can do, and then add them to my database that way.
Awesome, and I think that goes into what a number of people have said here today about it just works. If you work the program, it works, and it's because it comes down to math at the end of the day. It comes down to the numbers game. It comes down to the amount of opportunity that you have. So another question. So when working with Fusion and engaging with our team on top of everything else that we're doing, where do you find success? Is it by engaging with your clients through events, calls? Are you somebody that's doing pop buys, sending gifts? What are some of the more impactful ways that you are connecting with your database on a one-to-one basis or one-to-many?
A big part is on our client events, and we do an annual Thanksgiving event where we provide food and beverages. We have an activity like this year we're going to be having a photographer there for holiday photos and such, and then we have a toy drive. And so the way that we work with Fusion is to make sure that they set up this landing page for us that's for our RSVPs, and then they'll get the messages out. We are going both with emails to everybody as well as printed postcards, and then afterwards we'll have a photographer and a videographer at the gathering. Then afterwards we send those photos over to Fusion, and then they'll put together a video, kind of a thank you video that we can send out to the database, and then we'll actually pick one of our favorite photos for our Fusion holiday card as well. So and then we put it on our website. So we really leverage Fusion around 2 events per year.
I do a lot of pop buys, and I do about 10 to 15 a month. And I don't invest a lot of money into the pop buys. I got like 50 pack on Amazon for $50, and I'll put like something small in there. With the flyer that Fusion makes for me, and I always make it rhyme, like stay cozy this sweater weather, and that was something silly. But every time I'm showing houses, and I have all of my past clients and the majority of my SOI in a Google's Maps, because Google lets you make a map to layer on top of your map. So I'll see where I'm heading that day, and I'll plan out my Popeyes, and then I text people, and I'm like, hey, I was in your neighborhood today. I'm gonna swing by and give you a Popeye. Sometimes they're home, like, oh, come inside, get some water, come, and then I'll chat with them. My cousin thinks it's crazy that I get invited to baby showers and birthday parties, and I go. And if I don't have a kid, because my kids are a little bit grown, I'll borrow a kid and go, because I have nieces and nephews, because then it gives me an opportunity to talk to their sphere. So, and then like I have clients, once the deal is over, oh, does this mean this is over? And I'm like, absolutely not. You're gonna see me, you're gonna hear from me a lot. So it's about building relationships. When I first started, I did a lot of investment properties in Baltimore City, which I call my rinky dinks, because those are like $40,000, $60,000 properties. But from those investors came a lot of referrals, a lot of repeat business. I have one investor that I've done like 10 deals with, who's also referred me to all his family, like his nieces, his cousins. I'm on the 3rd deal with his sister. It's the building relationship part, showing up for people is the most important part. And let Fusion handle everything else, because I'm not a social media person. I hate posting. I'll call, but like everything else, I don't want to wear that hat. I want to be the relationship builder.
Love that. Love the plan. So that kind of gets me thinking, how are you prioritizing your time day to day? I mean, you guys are all busy agents. How are you prioritizing your time, putting it to the best use possible to ensure that, you're taking the time to lay that map over another map and, do those things?
I live on Excel. I also inputted all my daily goals, my monthly goals, even like my cleaning goals for my house into ChatGPT, let it make a schedule for me. And I even got the kids on the cleaning schedule, because I'm not the maid. We're all cleaning this
AI to help us get time back, right? Does anybody else have any best practices as far as time management? Because I think it comes back to consistency. You guys have all been consistent in adding month over month. And as busy as you are, you have to have some form of prioritization to be able to consistently make those inputs. So what's working for you guys?
One of the biggest things, and I learned right early on when I got into real estate, is you got a time block. If you're not intentional, and if you don't have it in the calendar, if you're not blocking the time off that this is the single most important activity that I need to do to grow my business forward, it is not going to happen. Other things will get in the way. And I've had people tell me before, oh, well, I can't spend time making those calls today because I have to do a home inspection. I said, well, let me ask you a question. If you had a listing appointment, would you cancel that? Well, no, we'd never do that. I said, then cancel your home inspection, reschedule it, and spend the time that is the single most important activity you can do to recession-proof your business, is continuing to build and nurture that database, that SOI.
Yeah, you have to guard your time jealously at the highest level. Otherwise, you're busy, right? And something else is going to take place of it, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, hey, building a database is not sexy.
No.
Okay? It is
No.
not. But it is the one activity that will continue to propel you forward and recession-proof your business.
Yeah, growth happens in the boring. So,
I have a confession.
oh, what do we got?
I prioritize with some people getting more of my time than others. And some of you how many of you have heard of the term super connectors? Anybody ever heard that term, super connectors? Those people get more of my time than others. And if you know where you want to go in life, if you know your plan, if you know your business plan, your wealth plan, then there are some people in your life that will give you more business just by their networking and who they know, and they will refer you because they got to know you better. And those are the people that I want to spend my time with. Those are the people that we're on the same path, we're on the same journey. And so those are the ones that I make time for. They're the ones that get the dinner party and the lunches and the coffees. I wouldn't say they're my top 40. Like, they're not necessarily my top 40. You know those people, though, that are so good at remembering other people's names and birthdays, and they know everybody, and everybody loves seeing them. They're the life of the party, and they can introduce you to any and everybody. Those are the people I'm talking about. Those are the ones that I always make sure I make time for, because they're going to introduce me naturally to the 2 Mets that I need to tell Sarah about on Thursday when I have my coaching meeting.
Awesome. Somebody else, Len?
There's 2 things that I make sure that I do every single day, and when it was explained to me the first time by Kevin, was the daily point planner. And I believe the story goes is that James would commit to 75 points, and once he hit 75 points, he'd go play tennis. That was his goal. He had to get to 75 points, and his reward was to go play tennis. So I can't play tennis, okay? But I would look at this, and I would go at it every single day, and it was time for a lunch break. And I would look at my points, and I'm only at 36. Well, I want to be over half before I go. Make a couple more phone calls. Next thing you know, I'm going for lunch, and I'm at 85 points. Because I've committed to that 75-point program. But the greatest way to commit to that 75 point per day is, who are your first phone calls? So my first phone calls every single day, it's on my calendar, someone's birthday, someone's child's birthday. I send out a card. If it's their first birthday, they get a $1 bill, say, put this in your piggy bank to buy your first house with Uncle Lenny. And they get this. And then I get calls later, they go, is this Uncle Lenny? And I go, what did my brother do now? And they go, yeah, my mom and dad, you've been giving me money for all these years, and mom and dad tell me I have to use you. Well, the thing about it is that when you're making those phone calls and you're wishing someone a happy wedding anniversary or a happy home anniversary, and you're not selling them anything, you got a 10, 15-minute conversation with somebody, and they thank you for calling. You always remember my birthday. I had one where I called to wish them a happy wedding anniversary, and the husband called me back, hey, sorry, I missed your message. What'd you need? I go, well, I was wishing you a happy wedding anniversary. He goes, no wonder she looked at me like that when I left. You saved me. And I go, dude, go get some flowers, bring a card, and say, gotcha, you thought I forgot. Save them, you know. But when you do that, your attitude for the whole rest of the day is started on the right foot. And you've given yourself, before you even made one business phone call, a minimum of 10 to 20 points on your daily point planner.
That was great. So I think that can transition into another element of being the professional that you would hire, showing up every day. It seems like you have an element of a morning routine where you're building your day out to set your day up for success, showing up for a 10 out of 10 day. What are some of the routines that you guys have implemented in your day-to-day strategies, habits, as far as getting in the right mindset, whether it be making sure that you put on a specific watch, kind of a routine in a way, and that's a knight putting on his armor, or what are some of those routines that just lock you in for the day?
I have a whiteboard in my office, and it has like my quarterly stats. It has a list of my daily things, and it also has my affirmations. So kind of getting in the right mindset is also mentally being present. So when you're talking to somebody, you're not thinking about trying to, okay, how am I gonna, this deal is falling apart over here. Like I can't have that being shown when I'm talking to somebody. So I go through my daily affirmations, I try to get in the right mindset, I make my calls, and then I go to all my deals. And I gotta remember, I don't know who said it, being boring is successful. Like what you do now shows up 2 months later. So you might not see it tomorrow, but it's gonna come down the line. So you gotta plant your seeds so you reap the rewards later. So keeping that in my head too when I'm doing all the boring tasks.
What about you, Paige?
So there's this book, I think it's The Miracle Morning for Real Estate. Has anybody read that one? So it's about your top 7. It's like picking for you when you get up in the morning, what is it that you want to get done for yourself before you get to the day and to the chaos of the day. And so for me, it's not 7, but it's 5. And it includes, the spiritual aspect of it, the reading, the getting outdoors, before going into the office and going into the office every morning. So it's that consistency and just getting prepared for the day.
Awesome. Greg, what do you do?
There's a grand jury looking into that question about what I do.
Got it.
Interesting. That was weird. You heard Rick earlier say you don't have a time management problem, you have a prioritization problem. And for me, I draw little boxes down the left-hand column of my page, and every morning make my list of what do we have to get done today, and then I just prioritize A, B, C. What are we going to do? What are the A items that I absolutely have to get done? What are the B items? What are the C items? And what are the ones that I can delegate off to somebody else? And I wish it was more sexy and sophisticated than that, but it's not. It's just prioritizing what has to happen today in order to keep me alive.
Awesome. So I'm curious, are there any success stories? So I've talked with a lot of agents, hundreds of agents in my time here at Fusion. And oftentimes an agent will say, I don't want to add that person to my database because of whatever reason, or I know that they're going to use me. I'm their agent for life. And obviously we advocate for, put that person in the database, right? I think most people in this room have had an unfortunate experience with that. But I've also talked with agents that were apprehensive to put somebody in that database, somebody from 20 years ago that they just didn't think was worth putting in there. Lo and behold, a few months go by and that person's giving you a call.
10 years ago, I helped a client build a home, and it was a beautiful build, custom build, helped them with the architecture and everything else. As that deal completed, I said something that offended them. And they basically said, we don't need to be friends and we don't need to be hanging out together anymore. Thanks for the nice house, but have a nice life. And I wrestled with whether to, sort of how to respond to that. I have continued to serve them and be kind to them, and I've kept them in my SOI. I have occasionally delivered a loaf of homemade bread or a jar of honey, or just done small acts of kindness without ever being pushy and about ever asking what else I could do. They have had zero contact with me for 10 years. 2 weeks ago, I was on vacation in Tucson, Arizona, and I got a text message from them, and they said, do you know anything about lake homes? I live in Minnesota, I know something about lake homes. I said, I've done a few, how can I help? And then they popped a Zillow listing in and said, could you consider representing us? I'm going to get emotional. Could you consider representing us on our purchase of this home? We signed a contract last Saturday for $10.2 million.
Let's go.
But the point is, I kept them in my people. I don't like the term SOI. These are people. These are relationships. These are friendships. Be careful about database and people and numbers. These are humans that are emotional and need love and kindness and our friendship. And if we mentor, we heard earlier from Rick that we're in the relationship acquisition and cultivation business. That's it. We've got a cult. So there's your success story for SOIs. Is I hung in there for 10 years with somebody, and it looks like there might be a paycheck at the end of that rainbow.
That's awesome. Way to go. All right, is there anybody else that's had a story like that?
Yeah, I can't beat that story, but
That's a good one. That's a good
I'm not
one.
going to try to beat that story. But what I want to say is I've had several people that I didn't think I would, like I said, I do a lot of client parties. So it don't cost me anything to send them an email. It's free for that. It's free for a text. It's free for a call. The only thing it costs me to do is send the mailer monthly, right? So that's a couple bucks, say $3-4 a month. And I've had several people, it'd be 5, 6, 7 years, never return a call, never nothing. And then like you said, out of the blue, hey, can you help me with this house? Like you said, you think they don't like you, they're mad, they're busy with life. And when they're ready, they're ready. So like I said, it cost me one lady, I think it was like 7 years, so what, $36 a year. It cost me to stay in contact with the mailer. And then you get like a $10, $12, $15,000 commission. So it's worth it to keep them in there unless they tell you to take them out.
Len, do you have something to close us out?
I had a couple, they were the soccer coaches for my son when he was in kindergarten. If you've ever seen a bunch of kindergartners play soccer, here's 20 kids going like this and 20 kids going like this. They became friends, and then I get a call from Colleen one night about 10:30, and she says, Lenny, I need you to pray for John. I go, what's wrong? He was in an accident. He used to drive lowboys. Those are the trucks that bring all the big material, the earth movers and everything else, rebuilding highways. And a piece fell off the machinery and broke John's back. And didn't know if he was going to make it through the night. So, of course, I called everybody at the church, and we did what we needed to do, and John survived the surgery. We then raised all these fundraising to get everything going for our friends. We did well. Now, they lived in a split-level home with a 2-car detached garage. While he was waiting for his settlement, one of the things that he got was the ability to get a Suburban that was fitted for him and to be able to climb into the chair came out. He would go in, and there was a hook that came around the back of the Suburban, took his wheelchair and put it back in. But the problem was, they lived in a split level. Bathrooms were upstairs or downstairs, so he was regulated to just one floor. And then when he wanted to go out, if it was raining, he'd be sitting in his wheelchair in the rain waiting for the thing to move around. So they finally got their settlement, and we're looking for a ranch, and we're looking for something that had an attached garage and a much different price point. So we looked and we looked and we looked, and we found this home, or I found this place. I says, meet me here. He pulled in. I opened up the garage door. He pulled in. I says, open up the back gate. The gate opened up. The hook came out. The door opened up. He was able to do it dry as a bone. Now, anything with an attached garage, usually you got a threshold going into the house. This house had no threshold. Here was the garage floor. Here was the kitchen floor. He reels in. We go to the master bedroom. There's a roll-in shower. He says, my wheelchair can go here. When I need to take a shower, I can jump into this one, go into that one. He goes, I can't go into the basement until we got an elevator. I go, come on with me. We went around to the outside. This house was built for John, and we didn't even know it. It was on the market for 4 years. He took the ramp down to the back that came out to the English basement, the walkout basement. I says, John, until you get that elevator in, you can just take your wheelchair, go down. They bought the house. We go to the closing. And I'm thanking him. This is during the ultimate crash. I went from $14 million in sales to less than $5 million in 1 year, to less than $4 million the next year. And that one deal was 1/4 of the $4 million I made in sales that year. So I'm like, thank you. I thank you. And he goes, no, I need to thank you. Today you made me feel like a man again. I said, John, what the hell did I do? He goes, Lenny, you don't understand. Colleen doesn't have to be here all the time. She can go work, she can go volunteer. I can take the kids to school. I can do the grocery shopping. I can go fishing. I can go pick the kids back up. I can do whatever I want. I might not have legs, but I feel like a man for the first time in 6 years.
That's awesome. Thank you, Len. All right, give it up for our panelists.